Yay, we're on.
What's going on, everyone? Jackson's enthusiastic tonight.
I certainly am.
Welcome into College Football After Dark here on the Voice of College Football for Mark Rogers. We have our normal panel here, and we have a bunch of topics to cover and some painful ones for some of us. We'll deal with that later. But we got our man John, Michigan man, Tony,
hey.
Jeffrey over here, one of the smartest guys in college football right now. Tim Prangley, the usual Trojan guy, who's somewhere. He's reverberating. Will, Notre Dame man. We've got
long time to see you guys.
Yeah, Austin. We've got Cardinals represented here, and we've got Jackson, the Bama guy.
What's up, man?
We are all rolling, and a couple of quick notes before we get started. Don't forget to hit that like button if you like the content. Also, subscribe to the Voice of College Football and all of the school channels. We just had the Notre Dame show a little bit ago. Will and Jeffrey stopped by that as well. That was great. So check out all the channels. And, of course, the Patreon. So if you like this type of stuff that we do every week, you might want to look into the Patreon. It's only $5, and you get to do hangouts pretty much every day. We talk about college football with these knuckleheads, and we have a great time. And don't forget about the betting guide. Might actually help when you're making your picks. So lots of good stuff. $5. All a great time here at the Voice College Football community. And we'll just dive right into the first topic. And I'm sorry, Ben, we're going to rip the Band-Aid off here as Michael Penix gets 408 passing yards and beats Oregon 37-34. And the rest of the Washington Huskies also helped.
Well,
but what a game.
The nation in passing yards per game. So that's pretty big.
It really wasn't surprising, to be honest.
Game of the year candidate.
More surprising was the blown coverages, like on some of those throws. Regardless, it was a hell of a game, and all props to the Huskies. They came into that environment. They did what they needed to do. Oregon got a little overly aggressive at times. It didn't work. But props to the Huskies. Full credit goes to them and that coaching staff and getting them, with that type of game plan. So, hey.
It looks like they watched the game plan that Washington State used.
Yeah, maybe.
The difference is they got the stops that Washington State couldn't get.
Yeah. It was a hell of a game. I mean, that first half was like defense, kind of a lot of offense, but defense, low score. Then in the third quarter, it exploded for like 35 points between the two teams. It was a wild game, but props to the Huskies. If Sergeant Pickles is listening or sees this later, I was wrong, Sergeant Pickles.
Well, it does seem like for the most part, Oregon was able to stop the rushing. They only got 114 rushing yards, but wasn't able to stop them in the air. It looks like Penix really spread the love and got the ball to a lot of different players. So then the defense wasn't really able to focus on just one. So that can always be a problem.
Yeah, statistically, Washington did exactly what they were going to do. They threw the ball. Oregon stopped the run. They held right to the average that they are on the season. And then they rushed for pretty much their average season yards in this. Like in the third quarter alone, I think they ran for 150 yards or something alone in the third quarter. But at the end of the day, couldn't make a couple plays here and there that really would have made a difference. So, I mean, that's rivalry games for you too, no matter what. But Washington's not a bad team. All the hate today for
Washington is number one in the passing game in the nation.
Well, they are, but Washington is an 8-2 team, just like Oregon. So we're both 8-2 on the season. Washington's not a bad team. They just had a couple of those kind of Pac-12 hiccup games too that always seems to happen in the Pac-12.
The old curse of Arizona.
Yes, that one especially.
How you lose Arizona? Oh, right. I just said.
Well, and what's interesting is now, does the Pac-12's playoff hope entirely run through the USC Trojans?
Yes.
Yes.
And do we think what do we think about that possibility?
We think that it's better to be able to complain about why you should be in the playoff than to go get whacked by Georgia.
Hey, I was being nice. I said yes, absolutely. It does rely on USC.
No, I mean that's yeah. I mean USC has the best chance. I think talking to lots of USC fans, thinking about everyone would love the idea of making the playoff, but wouldn't it be more fun to beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl than to get slaughtered by Georgia in the actual playoff? And I say beat Michigan because no offense, we know what Michigan does for 100 years of Rose Bowls, so it's probably how it would go.
Yeah, I think it would be a really good game.
Wouldn't it be a fun game? It'd be such a fun game, actually.
It would be a fun game. It would be a historic matchup, and you're right. I think anybody going to the playoffs is going to get whooped by Georgia. So maybe
play in an epic Rose Bowl for the ages rather than get slaughtered. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but just when you think about where they are in the rebuild, who would have thought that awful 4-8 team? They were bad. That bad 4-8 team is literally now on the face of a potential playoff berth. But I don't like to look past that because I know you did. You were the smart one. But when you think about it, UCLA is a good team. There's going to be 10,000 points scored in this game. Whatever the over is, bet it. And Notre Dame is rapidly looking better and better and better. I mean, we can laugh about the team that lost to Stanford Marshall, but this is the team that destroyed everyone even remotely in contention for the ACC. Embarrassingly. Ran them off the field. So, that's a real team, and they're coming to the Coliseum on Thanksgiving night. Both bands will be there, all the fans. It'll be wild. And those are two real games. And even if you get past those, then you've got the Pac-12 championship game, which is either going to be probably Oregon, maybe a rematch with Utah, or in all chaos, a rematch with UCLA. So, there's a long road of very, very difficult games before I think USC fans need to stress.
John, you asked if the Pac-12 playoff hopes run through only USC. Well, I only have 3 words. Yes. Definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Nicely done.
I like
I'm glad that UCLA lost last night because I actually want to see, another Pac-12 team have a shot at the playoffs. But
yeah, it's
a title game. I mean,
Jackson, you're going to learn when you need to count on UCLA to lose, they'll find a way to win. When you need to count on them to win, they will find a way to lose.
Basically, you don't count on them at all.
Well, you'll need them sometime, Jeffrey. When you need them to win money. You need them to help you out, get your berth, whatever. They will do the wrong thing.
I think the best case scenario for the Pac-12 is USC, and the best scenario would be if Utah beat Oregon and USC rematched them in a neutral field for the playoffs. And that's what I called the very beginning of the year. I called that exact situation. I said we would lose in Salt Lake City, and then we would rematch them and beat them in Las Vegas. And I'm sticking to it.
That's fair. The committee loves those rematches, especially when you avenge a loss. They like those a lot, actually.
I'm thinking of a 1-point loss in Salt Lake City on a 2-point conversion at the end of the game with some questionable calls.
They had some real scandalous calls. Because the thing is the committee people know that those were some sketchy calls.
And either way,
much discussed.
Even without the calls, you know what I mean, Tony? It's a 1-point loss to a top 10 team. They're a top 10 team right now. If they beat Utah, if they beat Oregon, then maybe they move up a place or two. And now we're facing a top 10 team in the championship game with a chance.
You'd end up with probably at that point probably a number 6 versus number 5 or number 6 versus like a number 8 or number 9.
And so I would be shocked if that goes down and USC runs the table, that they'd be left out.
We'll have to see how it goes. Let the record show that some idiot called for an 11-1 season for USC and potential playoff berth. And I don't know, man.
Smart guy with a outstanding Big Ten degree.
I'd say that's a smart guy that called USC go 11-1.
We call ourselves the knuckleheads at the voice of college football.
Whoever the idiot is, I say don't undervalue yourself. You're not an idiot.
Well, I appreciate that, Jackson. So speaking of,
unlike the people in the chat who keep repeatedly asking questions, they could just Google.
Google is your friend, people.
Google is your friend.
So we still have some unbeaten teams, and we've got Georgia. Obviously, we know that Michigan and Ohio State may be facing the first 11-0 matchup since 2006. Hopefully, maybe this one might have a different outcome. Let's see. TCU also unbeaten, and the question now becomes: I personally thought that Texas had this, and they didn't. Who's taking TCU out, or are they going to go 13-0?
I mean, if college football, we know that if you can't look at each of the games. They're going to be, I think they'll be favored in the games remaining, but it's hard to run the table. You know, you can't look at it as, well, they're better than this team, so they'll win that one. They're better than this team, they'll win that one. They're going to play a couple tough teams, one at home, one on the road. I think on the road and then one at home. And, anything can happen. And then they got to play a championship game, so they still got 3 chances to stumble. They've had trouble. If they do play Kansas State in the championship game, Kansas State was out there.
And if Kansas State doesn't have to pull like a quarterback from the student section,
right? They were without their top 2 quarterbacks, right? They're on third string quarterback. So I mean, could they? Yeah. Is it likely? I would say it's not. I think there's 50-50 they've run the table, but they're good. I don't think they get all the credit. I know Tony's been a big proponent that they're just on their ninth.
Make-A-Wish kid. They're the longest. I mean, it's Cinderella, and it's like 4:30 in the morning now, and she's still at the ball, and that little pumpkin, that little carriage, like pumpkin, like it's starting to sparkle, like it's about to turn back into a pumpkin, but it's 4:30 in the morning. She's like, I'm just gonna let this ride. I mean, that's TCU right now, and you know what? It might work because if they've gotten past the teams they've gotten past. You think a lot. Also, guys, I mean, USC's done a lot of the same thing. TCU has some brutally ugly wins, but they're wins. And sometimes, every so often, once every 40 years, you get a team that goes undefeated that absolutely does not deserve it, and they're undefeated in the national champions.
Like 1984. Oh, am I going there? I'll back up.
Everyone, get your bingo cards out because someone else
starts debating 1984. I will block every single one of you.
Oh,
we are not relitigating 1984.
Let's take a second.
Even though Washington was definitely the better team. Okay, keep going.
You pretty much just guaranteed that people in the chat will now be doing exactly that.
I got my block finger ready to go. It's like it is 007.
We're missing a key ingredient to that happening, so I think we're okay.
That's true.
You've traumatized Mark. Great job.
I know we're going into rankings later too, but we're gotta respect our man over here.
Yes,
DeAndre, with a good
DeAndre
later, but and DeAndre asked, like, why is LSU and Alabama ranked above Clemson when Clemson beat Florida State and Florida State beat LSU?
3 words: Stanford ACC champions. Transitive property. That's why. Stanford. And Will, you're Irish are to blame.
Well, Tony, I have to bring this up. Tony.
Don't forget who's also the ACC champions, Tony.
Marshall?
Yep. Marshall.
Marshall versus Stanford.
Okay.
There it is.
What would happen if we do end up beating the Trojans and then the Trojans win the Pac-12? So we would be the champions of both the ACC and the Pac-12.
No, Stanford would be the champions of both the ACC and the Pac-12.
Well, and Ohio State.
It'd be like Game of Thrones. You could have multiple regions. Actually, in that case, Marshall would probably have to undisputedly be both.
And Ohio State would also be ACC champs in a way.
Hey, by the way, DeAndre, that's actually a really good question. We joke about that, but yeah, Clemson and not only has Clemson beat Florida State, but Clemson has beat everybody except Notre Dame. and Clemson lost in a shake your head game at Notre Dame, but Clemson's beat everybody else. I mean, if we're letting we're giving that credit to TCU, we should probably give it to Clemson too.
Yeah, not every team. Most of the teams in the top 10 have had a clunker game, like a game where like, wow, how they win that game, or it was a close shave. I mean, even Georgia with Auburn had that weird game,
or Mizzou,
or even Kent State playing close to So
Georgia probably should have lost to Kent State and Mizzou.
It happens.
They're the best team in the country.
Michigan every single first half that we played.
Yeah. The Rutgers first half.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. I meant Mizzou, not Auburn. Yeah, so you've had those weird games.
I think Illinois lost to Purdue on purpose so that they don't have to play Michigan twice or Ohio State.
I mean, I might do that too if I were them.
That's big brain thinking right there.
It is.
But the problem with Clemson is they had that beginning of the game, they go down 14-0. And as I said before, it's a team that's not designed to come back from being down. That was recipe for disaster. It just snowballed.
Yeah, and I hate that I missed it last week because then I got accusations of hiding, even though I was on the Clemson post game show. So if people want to hear my thoughts on the game, my raw reaction, you can go watch it. It's there for everybody to watch. So go subscribe to the Clemson Voice of College Football channel. So
sure, I'll drop it here.
Yeah, but yeah, I honestly don't have a problem with it. I mean, with Bama or LSU being ahead, I think that the resumes are just a little bit, and Clemson's best wins have aged poorly. So I mean, their best win right now is Florida State now. I mean, Syracuse and Wake Forest have fallen off a cliff. NC State just lost to an unranked and below 500 Boston College team, and who's absolutely terrible. I know. I mean, it was a different quarterback under center back then, but still optics, it's a whole thing. So I don't really have an issue with it as far as, being it. Now, we can debate, later on if, Clemson is a one-loss ACC champion and they're still behind, an LSU team that, well, if the LSU wins the SEC, they're probably in, but like an Alabama, a conference champion Alabama, then we can talk. But I don't really have an issue with
let's be honest. We've seen LSU play a lot. Fair money that they just go into the Georgia Dome and get whacked.
Also, and John DeLon in Will's show. Just talk to me after the championship game.
Yeah, they're gonna get whacked. I mean, they could barely beat Arkansas, who lost to. They did beat Big SYU, but they lost to Liberty. So, like, we're talking about a team that lost to G5 at Liberty.
Yeah,
so
if KJ Jefferson was healthy, then Arkansas easily could have beaten LSU. Yeah, he was available.
Yeah, exactly. Arkansas probably should. So, I mean, again, kudos to LSU and kudos to Brian Kelly, who went into LSU and has done. Sorry, Will, cover your ears.
Sorry, Will. Yeah, this right.
Yeah, kudos to Brian Kelly, who's gone into. Yeah, Will can't be here for this. Who's done a bang up job. And to all the LSU fans, go Tigers! Like, you guys, absolutely. Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley and Jim Moore Jr. are, like, I think, the heroes of the year as coaches that have absolutely taken programs that were in bad straits and in 1 year shown how you can change them. So, yeah, Brian Kelly, Jim Moore, Lincoln Riley, I mean, all those guys that have really turned out, actually even Jed Fish, turned around programs in 1 year. Kudos to them. So I'm not ripping on LSU. It's just we all seen the monsters from Georgia. Right? It's like you may have a really nice pitcher, and now you're going to play against Clayton Kershaw. Good luck, you're dead. Unless you're this year's playoffs.
I'm glad UConn's competent.
Yeah.
Hey, hey, Michigan fans are thrilled to see UConn doing well. Strength of schedule.
Victory non-conference.
Oh, Lord.
Like that LSU Arkansas game, I just hate to be the people that bet on LSU minus 3.5 because
or the over.
Yeah, because that's a bad beat, my friend. And here's a little stat that I don't know if everybody knows this about TCU Texas. You ready? Because TCU beat Texas last night, It is now their 8th win since they joined the Big 12 in 2012. They are now 8-3 against the Texas Longhorns. So no matter if Texas is to beat TCU 2 straight years before they go to the SEC, they will have that losing record against TCU from the Big 12 era.
Oh, they got taunted about that in the Texas State Legislature too last year.
Yep.
One of the state senators said something like, I can't do the accent right, but she was like, "Why? What's wrong? You're afraid of the frogs? I mean, you can't beat them," or something like that. It was really funny.
I remember that. Yeah.
The senator from Fort Worth or whatever it was really funny. I loved it.
That was still better than Brian Kelly's accent.
Thank you.
You
You know what? Brian Kelly's kicking butt. Like LSU fans. I mean, I have friends.
Well,
I
this
love
was my
friends with
question.
LSU.
Will other coaches now try to emulate some of the craziness?
Well, but the thing, let's be honest, guys. The thing about LSU, if you win, like, they're good.
Yeah.
Like, they don't really need you to fit in. Like, if you win, you're good. And that's what people said about Brian Kelly the whole time. That's what Scott Woodward knew about Brian Kelly. He knew he was going to come in because he's won everywhere he's ever been.
Yeah, and here's the thing about LSU. That place is so full of talent. You don't have to be a good coach. And I'm talking to you, Mad Hatter. I'm talking to you, Ed O. You don't have to be Bear Bryant to walk into there and win national championships. You could throw a rock and you're going to hit a 5-star. So they should be winning. It's really a lot like schools like Ohio State, like USC, like Alabama, these kind of schools, really like Miami. You know, you have all that talent right in your backyard. If you're not winning, what are you doing? So,
right.
That's why there's a high fire rate at those schools.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, LSU for somebody like Brian Kelly. At first, I thought he was thinking, you know what, they might fire me in 3 or 4 years, no matter what. So I'm just going to ride this out and then get a nice buyout check, right? But now, I mean, Sky's obviously this year there's going to be a ceiling, right, with a couple of losses already in the books, but it's looking very improved. And I'm eating some crow because I thought this year would be kind of rough for them.
I don't feel bad, John. I thought LSU wasn't going to do so hot either, to tell you the truth.
Well, Jaden Daniels came in there and just really changed that offense, and is a big part of their success. So
at least we're not Texas A&M. I mean, you literally go from being 6th in the nation in the preseason.
Man,
now you can't even get 6 wins. The question is Jimbo gonna bail out in the middle of the night on Texas A&M like he did Florida State?
He wants that money, bud. He wants that money, Jackson.
He wants to get fired.
Ego is fragile. You know, he's got a fragile ego.
Can we just dedicate this entire show
to $86 million than give that much to Jimbo?
Oh, they're going to negotiate that buyout down. It's going to be just like with Harbaugh after 2020. You know, they talked him into negotiating that buyout down, and he was more than happy to because he loves Michigan. And, you know, Nebraska, they did the same thing with Scott Frost. They talked him into negotiating that buyout down. That's what's going to happen with Jimbo. I mean, they are not paying out, what was it, $85 million, $90 million? No, they're not paying that much.
They got to find a reason. They got to find a for-cause reason, or they'll negotiate it together. But
going from 6th in the nation to 3-7 is a reason. Having a worse record than Vanderbilt is a reason. I mean, that's reason enough.
We can spend this entire show slandering Jimbo, and I wouldn't mind. This is great.
But we know he doesn't like this year, you know.
Trust me, I have no love for Jimbo Fisher.
He'll have to get a new OC. But hey, how about the energy from Auburn football last night?
Yeah.
Like, after the game, it was the happiest I've seen them all year. The players were happy. The fans were happy. The coach was happy. literally everybody associated with Auburn that night at Jordan Hare was really happy. Now, does this?
I love hearing that from an Alabama fan because the awesomely condescending sense of pity is spectacular. They were so.
Well, I saw the graphic. I saw the graphic. Cadillac Williams $400K salary, and then Jimbo Fisher was like the $85-90 million salary, and it was just like the contrast there.
Now, if Auburn beats, they'll beat Western Kentucky, no questions about that. But if they beat the big bad Bama, does this automatically make Cadillac Williams a finalist for the head coaching job? Why?
No.
No, why not?
I think that at this point they need a big name. I don't think just winning one or two games here and there is going to do anything. Do they want to keep him on staff? Maybe yes, but I think they want someone established with a winning record.
I said probably a finalist. He said final, not the front runner. He's not going to be a finalist.
He gets a fair interview, but they're not going to hire him.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair in that sense of the actual wording of it. That's fair.
Yeah.
We got LBC Trojan, aka Rick. Thank you for your contribution. And don't forget to.
Rick made this prediction on the Pac-12 chat show last week. Rick called it that Arizona was going to stick it to UCLA, and they did.
Congratulations, Rick.
I think
I was just about to say he's on the obviously the Pac-12 After Dark. He's on USC show, the USC football at the Voice of College Football. So definitely check those shows out and those initiatives. It's always a good time every week. And Arizona wins by 3. We have another one too, I believe. Thought I saw another one come up. Lamar Stevens. Thanks, Lamar. People were only thinking about what BK could do for LSU, but forgot about what LSU and Louisiana could do for BK.
Good point.
Well, I said in the chat that Brian Kelly is going to test the comment I made about anybody can recruit to LSU, because I mean, Brian Kelly, we could talk about, I've heard comments about, Brian Kelly was tired trying to recruit to Notre Dame. You guys, you have to look at what Freeman's doing right now. He's got a great recruiting class. I'll be interested to see if him and his family can get in the way of messing up recruiting down in Louisiana. So we'll see how well his dance moves get, but he's gonna be dancing a lot, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The Big Ten West. Now, everybody is losing on purpose because they don't want to deal with Michigan or Ohio State. Because let's be honest, Michigan, Ohio State is the real Big Ten championship. Because whoever wins that game is definitely winning that Big Ten title game.
Yeah, I'm kind of they got to do something with divisions, because it's now been how many years of this where
just put USC, UCLA in the Big Ten West already.
Well, that, and also even then,
aren't they already?
I think they will be, but
they're not.
I don't know, man.
After 2023, unfortunately, but
I hope they just.
I know. I'm
don't
just
do
kidding. I'm just kidding.
I just want the two best teams in
that case.
I agree with that. It's clear that the Big Ten West is more likely never going to ever be as good as the East. And it's sick when you have Ohio State, Michigan. It's clear they're the best two, but then Ohio State or Michigan's got to beat up on Iowa or Illinois or Purdue or Wisconsin. It's not fun to watch at all.
And USC is going to shore up the Big Ten West. There's no doubt about that. And UCLA, if they keep their recruiting up, which – but definitely USC, I think, will.
What's that? They don't do that across town.
Yeah, Chip Kelly went to the Brian Kelly. Maybe they're related, but they went to the same school of recruiting. You don't recruit, so we'll see.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
agree
when
with
you're the
Rod.
number one public school in the country, you just find kids that really want to go to grad school for free, and you're good to go.
I
Here-
agree
here's
with Rod. I
Go ahead.
didn't agree with Roger Dodger on much on the Notre Dame show, but I do agree that can we just
Shocking.
get rid of divisions in the Big Ten? Like, I really just want to have especially when USC and UCLA come in, because I just want to see like a USC Ohio State final if they're the two best teams.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, like not a USC.
I'd love that.
Purdue. No
I'm
disrespect to
thinking about
Purdue, but
Really thinking about it. Oh,
Zach T on the same Pac-12 note here. $5 super chat. Thank you. The USC Utah rematch looks a lot better after this weekend. Go Utes.
yes, it does.
It's going to be interesting to see if the Ducks can shake off that voodoo from last year when Whittingham and the Utes had their number. Ben, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen this week?
I'm not going to make a prediction right now, but we don't have cristobal, so I'm not as worried anymore.
Yeah, the thing I noticed about Cristobal is that this from the Oregon era. Every time they had just like, for example, like 2018 against Stanford, they had a shot to win it and they blew it. 2021, yeah, they brought their A game against the Buckeyes. Once again, they had their shot to beat Stanford, but guess what? In the final minutes of the fourth quarter, they allowed a 99-yard drive. Like,
There was a lot of things that went into that game, but yeah, still we lost it.
yeah. In like 2020, they blew it against Cal and Oregon State. In 2019, they blew it against Auburn.
Well, 2020 we were still Pac-12 champions. So sorry, USC.
Yeah, you guys backdoored to that one. I don't think USC was Washington.
That was the Huskies' fault, not ours.
True.
Well, 2019, it was. I mean, honestly, the more egregious loss was the Arizona State game. But yeah, definitely a head scratching loss every year, at least one, and that's kind of what held the program back from really achieving more than they did. So we'll see if Lanning can kind of, right that ship as the years go on. But definitely.
But thanks, Zach. Thanks for the super chat. I do think it's going to be USC and Utah and Las Vegas.
So head scratching losses. There were a couple of those, and one that we definitely wanted to address was Vandy beating Kentucky, which snapped a 26 SEC game losing streak. Congrats to Vandy. Woo!
Oh, yeah.
Do they have a hand thing? Is this like a Vandy thing? I don't know. What do they even have a hand thing?
That's like the Star Trek
thing.
Probably. I mean, if I would use that.
Who knows? Close enough. Go Vandy.
Do we need to address this topic? Well, kind of, yeah. I mean, we were actually debating maybe doing the whole show as an ode to Vanderbilt, but figured that probably wouldn't get a ton of eyeballs. But yeah, I think it's notable, and we always talk about upsets, and obviously, this is one that happened, and this is why we love college football, because you could just skip ahead to the end of the season. You could make your predictions, but these types of games happen all year, and every week there's some type of crazy upset.
My dad likes Kentucky. It's funny. My dad likes Kentucky football a little bit, and he's like, "Man, I can't believe they lost." Like, how could you not be happy for Vanderbilt, Dad? They haven't won an SEC game since 2019. To be happy for them, it's awesome.
Yeah, Clark Lee's doing pretty good there. He's like
they haven't won a road game either in even longer. I think it had been since 2018 since they'd won a road game in the SEC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously had like a couple of decent 9-3 seasons with James Franklin, which obviously helped propel him to his Penn State career. But it has been a minute since they've been semi decent. So it's good. It's good to see them get the occasional win, and hopefully they continue to improve. So we had Arizona beating UCLA, which what a turnaround for Jed Fish in that program. What weren't they? Didn't they get one win all of last season, and now they're beating they're getting ranked wins.
That 1-win record was a little deceiving, and I'm sure Tony and Tim will agree. Arizona was still dangerous last year, and this year it was known they were going to be a lot better.
And the next 2 weeks, next week they're at home against an already bowl eligible Washington State. Then on rivalry week on Black Friday on Fox Sports 1, 2 p.m., they're going to play Arizona State, and boom, they'll get that win.
Oh, I think that's going to be an interesting game. Those two teams, there are a couple things that most people in the country don't realize, and that is how much Washington and Oregon hate each other as states. Mark Rogers described it as, he said, it's like Ohio State and Michigan, except without the respect that they have for each other. And the other one that people,
it's the Iron Bowl of the West Coast, man.
It is, but the other one that people don't appreciate is the Territorial Cup. Yeah. Just just wait for that week, and I mean it'll be 30 seconds before somebody from Arizona brings up that Arizona State used to be called the Tempe Normal School.
I guarantee you,
it'll happen in minutes.
Getting that 77 beatdown they got a couple years back.
Yeah, that would make Jed Fish a hero.
If the Wildcats could beat the Cougs this week and then the Sun Devils, they can make a bowl. That would be awesome.
It's crazy about the Arizona UCLA game because Rick told me last Wednesday, he said somebody was going to go down. I thought all of them were going to get it done. UCLA, Utah, USC, I thought they were all going to win, but UCLA went down. Rick called it. He said that one of them was going down. Because
remember, guys, until this weekend, the Pac-4 of the somebody called it the Big Four and the other 8. None of the other 4 had lost to any of the other 8 until today or until yesterday. Mm-hmm. And real quick, shout out to LBC. Thank you so much for that. And as he points out, it's now officially basketball season at Kentucky. Yeah. XOXO, John Calipari.
It most
I think I like sincerely better.
XOXO. That was an ugly fight when that went down.
Todd Gwynn, who was the worst? I would agree. Bill O'Brien.
You know what? I don't know.
There's a lot of trash in the SEC. We're doing that SEC autofellatio thing where we forget about the bottom 8.
That's true.
There's all down there. There's a lot of stuff down there that.
Daryl Dickey.
I would actually go with Marcus Satterfield at South Carolina. I know that hasn't been. That's kind of been under the radar this year, but South Carolina has been pretty awful offensively this entire year. You got to think Spencer Rattler, who's former 5-star quarterback. They got a ton of talent in the transfer portal at wide receiver. Some really good guys from Oklahoma, really good tight end as well. Just a lot of playmakers. Like if you go down that roster, and offensively they've been against any team, any defense with a pulse, they've been absolutely horrible. I think he's been awful, and he's been awful for 2 years now. And I think Shane Beamer probably is going to be making a change in the offseason. But Bill O'Brien is he's up there. He's definitely up there. But I think objectively the worst job has been Marcus.
Yeah, Daryl Dickey and Eli Drinkwitz aren't great either.
Yeah, but Daryl Dickey, he's kind of a puppet. It's not his offense. He's running, so it's hard to really. It's Jimbo's offense. He's the one making most of the decisions on that side of the ball. So it's hard to really them.
Yeah. South Carolina's OC, Daryl Dickey, and Bill O'Brien all share the title of worst OC in the SEC.
Yeah.
But Bill O'Brien's decision making in that at the end of the Tennessee game, where you basically just had to get your field goal kicker into like enough of a position where he can. I mean, it was at I think the Austin wasn't it like a 50. It was like a 50-some yard field goal, and he could have gotten them at least closer to like maybe a 30-yard field goal or 40-yard field goal, and then you guys probably win the game.
Yeah. But honestly, I'm just ready for this year to end as a Bama fan. But as college football fan, let's keep going with the year.
Absolutely. And then I'm just hoping I'm hoping there. I feel bad for whichever team is going to be in the Citrus or whatever bowl this year, because we got that honor a few years ago, and you guys basically had almost the entire 2020 national championship team.
D4 says, "Who is the worst coach in Rise Mark Freeman?" Oh, don't forget.
Who put that up there? Gosh damn it!
I'm still rooting Texas Notre Dame bowl game. I want it to happen so bad.
Bet that with Will and D that he bet $1,000 that within a 5-year span, Marcus Freeman is not gonna get a national title. Will, you ready to get 1,000?
I was trying to shake your hand.
There you go.
Wow. Okay.
Well, you should look for some out clauses in this.
Yeah.
You'll need some fine print.
Oh boy.
No, all right, D4. I understand what you're saying. I understand Marcus Freeman. We've had a few bumps in the road, but 2 weeks ago we played the number 4 team in the country and we won.
In all fairness,
the number 4 team in the country.
Those weren't bumps in the road. That was a giant tree laying across the road.
Yeah.
And y'all hit it.
That was a spike strip, and then a second spike strip. That's what that was.
Yeah.
That was a spike strip, and then you crashed into the
Go
tree.
fund me.
But yeah, Marcus Freeman is still learning how to get his team up for the lower teams, on their schedule. Definitely, they've played up to their competition this year, but also played down a lot. So that's kind of that's one of the things that they're going to have. They're going to have to work out. And Freeman, again, still first time head coach. So those are things that he's still working out, but they've definitely they still look better. In some ways, they looked worse against Navy this weekend than they did in their losses against Marshall and Stanford, but they won, so that's improvement. And obviously, they beating Clemson a couple weeks ago was huge, and kind of is part of the them turning the corner. But they're doing I think they're on their way. They're a good team.
Well, honestly, everybody brings their A game against Clemson. Just how it is.
Yeah,
everybody brings their A game against Bama. Notre Dame, honestly, I'm thinking right now they're going to play down the Boston College for a little bit next Saturday. But like when it gets to rivalry week, they're definitely going to play up against USC. And I am looking forward to that battle.
Well, Will, you were mentioning on the show earlier, you were saying like that this was an important win against Navy, because this is the type of game where maybe earlier in the season might not have been a W.
Lost. We would have lost.
Right? So in some ways, beating a bad team is something that still isn't easy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can stumble, you can lose these games. It's possible. Right. So I think that it's worth mentioning that after a huge ranked win, then you take care of business against a team you should take care of business against, even if it was closer than we thought it was going to be. That triple option it'll get you. Zach, and thank you for another $5 super chat. Tim and Tony, I'm interested in hearing who and where your top 4 teams are in the pack after this weekend.
$5.
You're gonna have to come watch our show on Wednesday, right?
Watch the show.
It's a super chat, so I'm willing to give mine up. my top 4. I'll do it.
I'll give you mine. Mine have changed. And Tim, can you email me your 10 when you're done so I can add them to the list?
I like to wait the last minute, Tony.
Okay. Thanks. It's very helpful for me to do the slides.
My top 4 is going to be USC 1, Utah 2, Oregon 3, UCLA 4.
Mine is SC, Oregon, UCLA, Utah.
You don't want a rematch?
And then, but I'm expanding because we've actually changed. Zach, I think you watch our Pac-12 show. We've changed. We've had like a line under the top 4. We've dropped it now. It's now top 5.
Yeah, Washington's got to be in it, man.
Dubs up. Even if they're 5, they deserve some recognition. Daniel, I'm giving my dubs up. We're honoring. They kicked some butt, and Kalen DeBoer, another one of those guys that goes right up there with Jim Mora and Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly, doing an amazing job turning something around.
And if you want me to clarify why I have a Utah who lost to UCLA ahead of UCLA,
you think they're a better team,
right? I think that both UCLA and we saw it when UCLA played Oregon, right? Did they punt
Tim,
the ball?
Based on his avatar, I don't think he's going to disagree with you.
Well, I'm just saying for the any Bruin fans or Duck fans out there. During that game, when you had Utah and Oregon play each other, did they even punt the ball once? I think that there was 0 defense in those games. And from what I'm seeing from UCLA and what I'm seeing from Oregon, their defenses are really bad. I mean, really bad. So that's why I gave Utah the nudge. Come at me.
There it is.
I'm looking forward to seeing Cam Rising next Saturday, 9:30 p.m. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And D4, the actual answer is Stanford. It's so bad they actually just play All Right Now instead.
Who is the
But they're the ACC champions.
Who is the lamest fight song, and why is it again Notre Dame D4?
Yeah, he's got kind of a running thing about Marcus
Who's
Freeman.
going to lose their rivalry game against Kansas, and why is it Texas D4?
Ooh.
Oh! I mean, remember, too, if they don't win, the Texas helmet does not turn right side up on Uncle Lou.
Yep.
That is a good
It'll be another year of upside down Texas helmet for Uncle Lou.
It's a very good point.
I mean, Texas fight song kind of sounds like a cow dying, don't you think?
It would be on brand.
It still echoes in my nightmares from that trek up from the Arroyo Seco after the Vince Young game. That long trek up the hill to the car. I still hear Texas fight, Texas fight.
I just wonder
who
in the playoff.
It didn't happen. Yeah. According to the NCAA, that game didn't happen.
That game didn't happen. So I don't know what he was talking about. NCAA said.
I'm wondering who in the playoff committee is going to be simping for Texas to be in the top 25. Just be like 24, 25, you know. I'm just
only like 1 or 2 out of the 8.
Somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody will try.
Oh, they will. I just want to see Kansas knock their teeth out again next Saturday.
Ooh, those fight words.
Yeah.
Yeah, them fighting words.
I mean, Kansas does look decent this year.
Yeah.
Can they beat Texas? Who knows? But it'll be a good one.
It depends on which viewer shows up.
Yeah. If it was the one that we saw early, like when he was just lobbing insane balls against Alabama, then look out.
Yeah, next week it's at Kansas. So pulling for Kansas.
There you go.
But am I picking Kansas to win? Tune in on the Young Gun Show.
Here you go. Got to get that plug in, or give us a super chat, and we'll give up some intel early. You never know. So additional surprising games. UConn beating Liberty. I don't know if that's upset category, but
It's an
surprising
upset.
game. Surprising game, sure. UConn doing pretty. Seems like they're rallying.
You're doing
Those
great.
fans
Jim
are
Moore's
so
doing
happy.
amazing.
I just hope that Hugh Freeze wasn't thinking way too much about the sorority girls they saw the night before.
Or the jobs he's interviewing for.
True.
Yeah.
Multiple, probably.
Yeah.
Or why it's so hard that other other institutions have trouble when you interfere with sexual assault litigation.
Oh yeah.
For some reason, that seems to be a problem at other schools.
Yeah.
Womp womp womp. Purdue beats Illinois. So if Michael's in the chat, there you get. There's your Purdue plug.
Oh, here's a little stat for the Big Ten West for the 5 best teams.
Yeah.
In that division. Everybody ready? Now, Purdue is 3-2 against division opponents, and they are 1-1 against non-division opponents. Illinois is 4-1 against division opponents, but they're 0-2 against non-division opponents. Pretty soon that's going to be 0-3. Iowa is 3-1 against division opponents, and they're 1-2 against non-division opponents. Minnesota is 2-2 against division opponents and 2-1 against non-division opponents. And Wisconsin is 2-2 against division opponents, 1-2 against non-division opponents. Purdue's remaining games are home against Northwestern and at Indiana on rivalry week. Illinois is on the road to Michigan, and they're on the road to Northwestern. Iowa is on the road to Minnesota next Saturday, and on Black Friday, they're at home against Nebraska. Minnesota is at home against Iowa.
How big is this conference?
Huh?
Just kidding.
Oh, and Minnesota is on the road against Wisconsin, and Wisconsin is on the road to Nebraska next Saturday, and Wisconsin is at home against Minnesota.
Can we do the World Cup bracket now too?
What?
Can we do the World Cup bracket now too?
I know nothing about that.
I'm just kidding.
But it is a giant cluster in the Big Ten West.
Well, easy fits. Put USC, UCLA in there. No problem.
Isn't it like five teams are tied?
What's that been?
Like, yeah.
I couldn't.
Looks like 5 teams bottlenecked or something, 4 or 5 in the West or something. It's like, what is going on over there?
Illinois fumbled the ball, man.
This,
Illinois had it, and they had a one-way golden Willy Wonka ticket straight to Indy, and they blew it.
Do you want me to give the defense of Dan Lanning here?
Yeah, Buckeye Mike here, $5 super chat. Sorry to be late, but can anyone tell me what in the world Dan Lanning was thinking?
I'll give you the non-homer approach, and I'll defer to the Ducks to give you a Duck perspective. First of all, this is the kind of call when you're a coach. Their defense, neither of those defenses were stopping anybody. So if they punt that ball with that amount of time on the clock, Washington's going to drive down and kick a field goal, probably. You know that. Oregon lives and dies on its offense. The call was the right – I guess you could argue about it, but, I think the call was the right call. Look at the hole on the video. If the running back doesn't slip like a schoolgirl on a snowy, icy day and just fall, Oregon gets a first down, and Dan Lanning's a brilliant hero. I honestly – watch the video. The running back fell down and slipped, and they didn't get it. It wasn't because he got stuck. Yep. So I don't know that the call was bad. Well, just real quick, I don't know that the call was bad. Look at how those defenses played, guys. It was an aggressive call. It was a call from a hungry coach who wants to win the game. And
I had to be aggressive in the big game.
Yeah, I don't fault him for it. Anyway, sorry, Ben. I didn't mean to take your thunder, but I wanted to give a non-homer approach.
No, you're good because, I 100% agree. I think it was. You saw that third quarter. And Oregon tried to already milk the entire fourth quarter with that like 10.5-minute drive that only got a field goal at the end. So, yeah, I think he was in the same mindset. He just needed to take a timeout and get the right personnel in there. And, I mean, yeah, Whittington slipped. I haven't seen our running back slip at all. He just slipped. I mean,
look at the hole. He's there. He's in there. He's got the first down if he doesn't slip.
Yeah, I don't mind the call. It just was –
And I think Bo Nix was a lot more hurt than Bo Nix wanted to think. Because if you look at how Bo Nix played in that, a little bit late, a couple downs, about a minute later when he got in, he didn't look too good. And it was
his leg is bruised up or something. He couldn't step into that final like kind of Hail Mary attempt. He couldn't even step into it. He's going to get work this week, but I don't mind the call either. But yeah, it was just not executed well at all. He needed to take a timeout and look at his personnel because we were on a third string center also at that
really?
point. Yeah, because Forsythe went out, so our backup center moved to guard, and then we brought in another center for replacement. So he needed to stop and take time. But yeah, he was hungry. He was just trying to be aggressive. It didn't work.
Is Forsythe back next week?
That play where the ball, with the center snapped the ball over Bo Nix head, that completely changed the game. If that don't happen, I think Oregon wins because they had all the momentum on that drive.
Yeah, that was where he started showing himself being hurt. And then about 3 plays later, he went out because he couldn't get through whatever pain he was dealing with. I haven't heard anything about that.
And I mean, kudos to Bo Nix for an awesome game. Like, kudos, and I thought it was a well-coached game on both sides. I know everybody – my dad's a football coach. I mean, my uncle's a baseball coach. And, I mean, one time my uncle had a pitcher in the World Series, and people were, like, screaming the guy's name. And it was like, do you take him out or do you leave him in going in the ninth? You got 45,000 people screaming the guy's name. And, he kind of screwed up in the ninth. They lost the game. And, then everyone's like, oh, why would you have done that? It's like, okay, every one of you wanted him back in that game. Every single one of you in the 45,000 people. And all the TV people and everybody else. It was the thing to do. And it's just, you're a coach and you make that call. And sometimes you're the hero or sometimes you're the GOAT. And, I think, guys, a lot of times that happens. And we need to remember, like, when we love when the coaches are aggressive and they make it, and Pete Carroll going on 4th down and all that. And sometimes you don't get it. And that's the price you pay for all the times that you did.
Yeah. And to address like Buckeye Mike, because, I'm the Duck guy here. So, and trust me, it was an amazing game, regardless of the outcome. And I already gave all the props in the world to the Huskies because they did what they needed to do. Oregon didn't execute when they needed to. So that's why the games are played, and that's just kind of how it came out, especially in a rivalry game.
I want to see the Buckeyes go to Autzen Stadium, man. That would be pretty cool.
We were supposed to get that 2020.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think at this point, anyways, it's scheduled for, I think, 2031, I think, is another home and home. 2031, 2022.
Ben, the Bucks, the Ducks like the shoe. You guys do okay over there. Doesn't really matter if they come to you guys.
Yeah, Oregon didn't have any trouble winning in the horseshoe.
Yeah, but I'm saying, it would be cool to get Ohio State in Autzen, of course. But at this point in time, it's still like 10 years away. But that's unless something else changes conference-wise. That's why at this moment.
I know there's that upcoming home series a decade from now, but let's make that 2020 game.
Just for the record, Oregon has been quite clear they would like to make that an annual game, and they have been sending letters and applications to that effect to make it an annual game.
And the Big Ten said
no every time.
Yeah. So
thank you for your application.
All right. Well, let's roll into polling and playoff predictions. So, Mark put out his list of the 25 that makes sense. Obviously, Georgia, the definitive number one in Mark's poll and in Mark's list in the AP poll and pretty much everywhere. And I think we can all agree on that. And then it gets interesting, right? With the positioning of TCU and Michigan and Ohio State. So Mark's list, I believe TCU is number 2, and then Michigan, and then Ohio State, which nothing wrong with that. But then some of the other, obviously, AP and things, putting Ohio State up there, and then Michigan, and then TCU. Ohio State and Michigan are about to play each other in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's good.
It's going to
We
be.
got Buckeye Mike here quickly before we get into this topic. For the Buckeyes now in 2032, home and home with UGA, Bama, Oregon, and I'm guessing that's BC as in Boston College.
Boston College. Yeah, I am looking forward to the Bama.
Not British Columbia.
British Columbia. Yeah, there's some good games on a bunch of teams' schedules coming up, and the unfortunate part is just so stretched out over 10 years that it's like you have to wait for them.
Yeah, we got Texas, Oklahoma, Texas. Starting in
those games are scheduled, but sometimes they don't happen, right, John?
Oh, I hope these ones stick around.
Yeah,
I really do. I really didn't like when Ward did that with UCLA, because I think most of us fans wanted to watch that game.
Yeah, I mean that's a strength of schedule killer right there.
You think? Yeah.
Colorado State, Connecticut. I mean, your best win out of those three is Connecticut.
Yep.
It's not Connecticut basketball with Jim Calhoun. It's Connecticut football
with Jim Mora.
Yeah.
Who just beat Liberty? So.
Yeah. That win's starting to look okay.
Yeah, he's clearly distracted. Either at
who thought your best conference winner
bedroom by himself, or in the bathroom by himself, or those little phone calls he's getting from Auburn and West Virginia, possibly. But Neil Brown did save his job for another week with that victory over Oklahoma, which, by the way, is the first victory against Oklahoma since West Virginia joined the Big 12 in 2012.
That is true.
So, big win for Mountaineer Nation.
Interesting.
I don't think any of us picked West Virginia except Joey Foster.
Joey Foster might, absolutely. Well, James Wade says LSU wins out and they're going to the CFP.
I'm sorry, LS who? I can't hear. LS
yeah,
who?
I was like LS. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I think if they had one fewer loss.
I honestly, I don't disagree with James, to be honest. I kind of just get that feeling that if LSU wins out, I think it's going to be like a 2017 Auburn type deal. I mean, Auburn got their door. They lost to Clemson earlier in the year and they also lost to, I believe it was but they beat Bama and they beat Georgia in the regular season. And if they had beaten Georgia in the SEC championship, they were like doing the country behind Clemson with 2 losses. So I remember that season. So if it hadn't come down to that SEC championship loss, Auburn would have been in. I think this is going to be a similar situation for LSU. If they win out, I think the committee will put them in.
Even with the loss to, I mean, I guess the issue becomes the Florida State loss. I think if it wasn't for that, I would absolutely agree.
Let's see. LSU beat you last week, Jason. Yeah, but they couldn't beat Florida State or Tennessee.
Yeah, but I think the committee is excusing that Florida State loss, and they also really value Florida State. The committee really likes Florida State, I kind of agree. I think Florida State's playing really good football right now. They're a very good football team. I think they're one of the better 3-loss teams in the country, but. It just seems like the committee is, values Florida State, and I think they're kind of factoring in. It was, week 1 of a, first year head coach, and it came down to a blocked extra point, at the end of the day. And I'm not necessarily saying I agree with that logic, but I'm just saying what I think is going to happen. I think they don't really, penalize LSU for that loss so much, especially with how they're playing. It's a little bit of a recency thing, but that's kind of how this committee seems to work. It's kind of what me lately type thing.
In my opinion, I think that the only teams that control their own destiny, if they win out, they're in the playoff no matter what, is Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, and Tennessee.
Yeah. Well, that's why
because if Michigan loses, they're done. And Tennessee and TCU are getting in if they win out. That's how it's going to work.
That's why Tennessee was scoring a touchdown in the final minute against Missouri, because they want to show that committee, hey, we're that fourth team.
Mm-hmm.
More scenarios are going to happen for USC or LSU to get in. It's possible still, but more is going to happen. The only teams that control their own destiny are the top 5.
I would say if USC wins out, they're in.
Think so, John? Why is that?
I don't know. If TCU wins out and Tennessee wins out, they will not get in.
Unless, I was going to say TCU
control your own
going
destiny
undefeated.
means you have to win out and you're in. USC winning out, they're not in.
If they win out and win the conference champion, if they win out and win the conference champ, I don't know that it's going to happen. But if they win out and win the conference championship, they'll get it over a non-conference champion. If all those teams win out, they will take the conference champions over non-conference champions.
Tony,
you're telling me that USC would get in over Tennessee?
If you were talking about 4 conference champions who are all in that batch, yeah, they've been really clear about their belief in conference champions.
And if they're all 1 loss, and like TCU undefeated, I think they would take the
TCU's undefeated. Call it Ohio State or Michigan's undefeated, and call it Georgia's undefeated. If your choices are 1 loss, and I guess the only potential might be a 1-loss Clemson or a 1-loss USC, but it won't be Tennessee over those 2.
I usually disagree with DeReal on a lot of things on the SEC, but I just feel Tennessee gets in over USC. I want USC to get in.
I mean, DeReal's going to give us the SEC autofellatio, but
I know, that's a tough argument there.
DeReal also tried to tell us that 4 SEC teams will get in.
We love
DeReal. We love DeReal, but we're going to consider the source.
He's playing.
I think SEC football just put it right there. I mean, remember, guys, this committee is made up of the representatives from all of the conferences. Like they very much value. They've structured an entire playoff to value conference champions, all things equal.
And SEC, I like what you said there, but let me change one word. USC would get it, even though. Oh, sorry, 2 words. We think Tennessee is better. No one knows Tennessee is better because they haven't played a damn game. You don't know which team's better until they play on the field.
I mean, Tennessee is really good.
But you guys, again, this is the kind of thing where it's really pointless to argue 8,000 degrees of what if. Because there's a lot of football to be played.
Hold on a second.
Tennessee is number 1.
Hold on a second. Their last 2 recruiting classes were in the 20s.
Yeah.
Okay? We're not talking about a power pack team here. We're not talking about
the best receiver is a USC cast off.
And the kicker's a USC cast off. So
not their best receiver, but one of their best.
How about this? If TCU
I just don't think we can say I'm not saying. I think if you ask me right now, put my mortgage up, which team's better? I might say Tennessee, most likely. But do I know that Tennessee's a better team? Nobody here knows Tennessee's a better team. Let's not play that game. A lot of people go to, for instance, there's games all the time where like we think Oklahoma going to a BCS game is going to be a great champion. They get the doors blown off them. People don't know who the better teams are.
Yeah, we know. For example, we know that TCU is not one of the best teams in the Big 12, and they might go undefeated. So let's keep that in mind.
If TCU loses, then USC will get it. For sure. Okay, that's the thing. I was just saying, if the scenario happens between Tennessee and USC, in my opinion, they're going to take Tennessee. I'm not saying that they should or shouldn't.
You are not a commissioner. You are not a commissioner or a voting AD from one of the other conferences who are all sitting together on that committee.
Last year, it made sense, you guys. It made sense because the Pac-12 was a joke, right?
Terrible.
The Big 12 was
awful.
What it was. Okay. So then you're going to pull in, you throw out the winner, you're going to pull in 2 really good, really, really, really good, as we saw last year, right? That's exceptional. That Georgia and Alabama team, those teams were really good. Are we saying really that we think that Tennessee's on that level? I just don't think they're that good.
No, they got their butts handed to them when they went to play a team on that level.
And the teams in the Big 12 and the Pac-12, they've got good teams. That's the difference between last year and this year. Let's not sell this whole idea that perennially that we need to get 2 SEC teams in. That was an exception, and I think it was a valid exception given the circumstances. But the fact that you have a 1-loss Clemson, probably an undefeated TCU, and a 1-loss Pac-12 champion, possibly in USC, I think it's hard to say. We're you know what? We think that Tennessee's better, so therefore we're just going to invalidate all those conferences and throw this team in there. I just don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, you didn't.
Yeah, it's definitely a different scenario than last year.
There's a lot of football to be played. Like last night, I was laughing because there were folks on Tim was one of you guys were on, like everyone's arguing about UCLA, and I'm like, UCLA is about to lose. So there's a lot of like we need to let some of this football actually happen before we get too
distracted. Yeah, USC could lose next week. LSU
can drop well.
And LSU now, and Tennessee. Who knows what's going to happen with Tennessee? You don't know. No one thought that Arizona was going to beat UCLA last night. You just got to let the games play out. But
I mean, doesn't LSU might even lose to one of the orphanages that they have? Is this orphanage week for the SEC?
It is orphanage week. Yeah, it is
orphanage week. Okay.
Good for UAB.
The little sister report.
Tony.
It's so true.
Hey,
we
joke about orphanage week. If they're playing UAB, UAB is probably better than Arkansas.
Yeah, and I'm also going to give the nod to the team that played 9 conference games instead of 8. There you go, too.
Yeah, because they have what, Florida State and 4 orphanages? Florida State and 3 orphanages?
Yeah.
We lost to Florida.
Go.
Hey, so Cole just gave a super chat. Rule to Nebraska may be announced tomorrow, so if you're here, you may have just heard an inside scoop.
I hear that about 4 different coaches 3 times a day about Nebraska.
Yeah, Rule was definitely on my top.
Is that being reported by Bruce Feldman, or is that being reported by like MH Twitter Nimrod? So let's keep that in mind.
Hey, I follow that account.
Cole, let us know.
Don't you keep MH's good name out of your mouth, sir?
All right, I'll do that. But in all honesty, guys, I haven't seen that. So I mean, we could be wrong, but I haven't seen that from any reputable news outlet yet.
Yeah, let us know your source. Is it Nimrod, or is it somebody in the media who may know these things? Rule has been in my top couple.
He's awesome. That would be great if they did. But every single day, I see Twitter announcements about the Nebraska thing that's about to happen, and the only thing that's going to happen less than those usually is the nonsense about Arizona leaving for the conference, which is also not happening. So it's and it's a lot of the same accounts that say the same thing. So I would just take that with a grain of salt. Wait unless you hear it from Bruce Feldman, I wouldn't stress about it.
Buckeye Mike, because the chat says Tennessee not that good, does that mean Tennessee is not that good? Does that mean that Alabama is that good since Bama lost to Tennessee? Tennessee is better than we give credit.
Yeah, nobody's saying they're not good. They're really good. They're not Georgia good.
Nobody is saying that at all.
Right.
Literally nobody is saying that.
Yeah, we're all saying Tennessee is at least, I think, a good team. I don't think anybody disagrees. It's just, are they elite?
I know I'm not a commissioner. All I said is that in my opinion. I didn't say it was fact. I just said in my opinion. So I understand what you're saying about the argument. I know that. I just said I'm not an SEC guy here. I like every conference equally. I just said in my opinion they take Tennessee over USC. That doesn't mean that they're gonna. That doesn't mean that they should. It doesn't mean that they will. I just said in my opinion I think they will right now. Well, if that scenario happens, I don't even think it will because I think TCU is going to lose, but we don't know that either. If TCU loses, USC wins out, they're in. They're good because then it's going to be Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, and USC, and we're good. No argument at all. Or USC, then Tennessee, doesn't matter which way. You're good. But if that scenario happens, there is an argument with Tennessee and USC. That's all I said. It's just, in my opinion, they pick Tennessee. It doesn't mean they will.
And the thing is we already saw everyone wrote off Oregon for getting smashed early on in the season, right? But let's not forget that Tennessee lost by multiple touchdowns to Georgia, 2 touchdowns. really, if you watch that game, they won by more than that. You know, that game was not a competitive game. So who wants to see that rematch? Because that's most likely going to be the rematch in round 1. Who wants to see that?
I don't.
So that's we think we know who the best team is, right? Why don't we just go back to poll system if we want to think who the best teams are and exclude other teams? Or maybe, just maybe, what we'll do is try to get closer to an objective playoff system where you actually, I don't know, say that, hey, listen, these teams haven't played Georgia yet. Maybe they might. Why don't we give someone else a shot at it? Because Tennessee's already had their opportunity and they got smacked.
And let's reframe it. If anybody here who's ever gone to a bar and like tried to hit on someone right now, you guys act like there's a mentality that's like they're gonna marry me or they're gonna hit me with a truck. Like they think I'm the greatest team in the world, or they think I suck. No, guys, that's stupid. Like you got to get out of that mindset. It's not like death or royalty. They're a really good team, but they got their butts whipped and when they had their chance. And the committee rewards conference champions because the committee is made up of representatives from every conference. The committee is not made up of the SEC, like all auto-fillating each other. It's made up of representatives from each conference.
Well, since we have Tim and Tony fired up, let's look at James.
Oh, jeez.
Well, there were a bunch of them that were ranked when we beat them and knocked them out of being ranked. Oregon State they're back being ranked again, but we've knocked a bunch of them out after they were being ranked.
Yeah. If USC hadn't beat Oregon State, they'd be ranked in the top. Well, they are in the top 25 now in the AP, right? Or coach.
Yeah, they're back. Yeah, we knocked them out. We knocked a couple of them out.
Yeah, it's
a cute little like dumb point.
And also the point is a lot of these teams were ranked outside the top 25, and we don't know how good they are. You know what I mean? It's just, why don't we wait to see who everyone's ranked at the end of the season? Because that's usually all the time we hear these top 10 wins. Think about the teams who are in the top 10 at the beginning of this season, and where are they now? Wasn't Notre Dame ranked in the top 10?
Texas A&M was ranked 6th. BYU, who is awful, was ranked. They thought they were like a top 10 team in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So you're right.
See how things work out.
I
they beat Boise State.
Houston's been another
finally.
Well, Nebraska. Auburn.
What's a better job, Nebraska or Auburn?
Nebraska,
because Auburn is the worst job in the world, unless you just want to make a lot of money in like 2 years.
That's the thing I was gonna say. The better money job's Auburn, but the better job to maybe have a chance to win, or they'll give you a chance, is Nebraska. Yes.
With respect to recruiting, is that the case?
Well, with respect to recruiting, Auburn certainly, Auburn being in the SEC footprint is better for recruiting, but definitely fan expectation. The boosters are a toxic. The booster situation over there is toxic. If you want to be comfortable and not have the fans absolutely hate you for a game, then Nebraska is where you go. And Nebraska fans have been some of the most patient fans in all of college football.
That's a good point.
And most supportive in all of college football. They've been through a lot. They still show up and sell out Memorial Stadium. So that is that's a testament to them. So it depends on like what if you're a head coach, like what are you looking for in a job? Are you looking for the money situation and the high stakes type of situation and all that and wanting to maybe win a national championship? Well, Auburn has that potential, but it's, if you don't get results early, it's going to, hey, the buyout's good at least, but
and in recruiting, there are some great recruits there, but you're also recruiting against, SEC West, and you'll be playing LSU, Alabama, and Texas A&M. Are you going to be able to compete with their recruiting? That's the question you got to ask you. And then even the East, then you have Tennessee and Georgia. So
yeah, they're going to play Georgia
it's
every
all
year.
relative. It's all relative.
True. That's true. Yeah. All right, y'all. I think it's time for that fun segment where everybody gets to talk about their team and how they're thinking that they're doing. So we'll start over here with we'll go. Ben, are you here?
Yep, I'm right here. I'm lagging out.
So how are you now that you've had a day or two to process? How are you thinking about your Ducks?
I'm good. You know, we had the high expectation now because of how high we were getting and like we were on a roll. But, you know, the beginning of the season, I think we all said about 8-4, 9-3, especially if we can do a championship appearance or maybe even a Rose Bowl. I mean, that's a hell of a success for any team. Most teams in the Pac-12 would take that any day of the year. Most teams anywhere would take a huge bowl game. So, be interesting to see what happens with Nix and our center Forsyth. But I think moving forward, we're going to be ready for Utah this next week. So,
yeah, and I think Lanning has really. I think he's impressed me for his first year as a head coach, brand new staff. I think they've done some good things, and so you know you're gonna drop one every now and then. Like Michigan, when Harbaugh came in, we dropped against Utah the first week. We dropped one against Iowa in the second year. We dropped. Obviously, there was trouble with the snap. Like these things happen, so. We'll see how that goes. What
was that? What did you say, John?
No, I was just whatever you're finishing with.
Oh no, I was saying, yeah. I mean, he's a brand new coach. Not a lot of new staff. A lot of them are young. It's a learning curve. I mean, they're going to learn and they'll improve, or they won't. I mean, we'll have to see. Who knows what will happen?
Absolutely. So as far as Michigan goes, I'll keep this brief. I'm going to be going to Ann Arbor in a couple days to watch the Illinois game. I'm excited about that. Obviously, got to shore up the pass game if we're going to have a chance in the later this final stretch of the season. Like you can beat Nebraska with just running it down their throat. You're not going to be able to beat Ohio State, Georgia. Even the Big Ten West winner, potentially, if you can't shore up the pass game. And I think that JJ last year, he was hitting these shots. Obviously, he had spring out, and I think that impacted him. But he's doing okay. I mean, he's doing, I'd say, a notch better than Cade. But yeah, there's still a lot of room to grow. And hopefully we can get some reps in this Illinois game. I'm going to be watching for the deep balls. I'm going to be watching for some attempts to Ronnie Bell and even getting Donovan Edwards out as a wide receiver. So if we can get that going, then I think anything is possible this season. We have the talent. It's just that final bit of the passing game that we gotta still crack. But feeling pretty good. Tony, how about the Trojans?
It's a big game, wild game this weekend. John Wilner says, who's going to be the first team to get to 60 and how much will they lose by? So it's going to be a wild game. I think flip a coin on who wins. And that's part of why I keep saying, guys, that like we really need to not like anoint Tennessee and do our usual SEC autoflation until these games happen, because it might not matter. I mean, a lot of these teams could lose, and SC could well lose this week. So, you know, UCLA is a great team. They got a great mobile quarterback. USC continues to have extensive injuries on the defense, especially with Eric Gentry. We've got some offensive injuries. We just lost our number one running back. It was a heart and soul of the team. So, I mean, they may drop the next two. And then all of this doesn't matter. And it's why all of this angst that people have, like, let the games happen. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Flip a coin.
And I don't mean to cut Tim off too, because I know he wants to talk to Trojan. I do give a shout out to Troy Dye, because I saw that happen. And once a duck, always a duck. That was hard to see, you know, him have to get carted off like that. Well, that was tough.
I don't know if you guys noticed though, like the Colorado team leaders came over, and Travis Dye is an icon of the conference, and from his time at Oregon and now at SC, the Colorado team leaders, Colorado's coach Mike Sanford was talking to him on the cart, and I thought it was just a huge sign of respect for a really incredible player, incredible man, and he's going to have a long career on Sundays.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I echo Tony's point. I mean, it's a little bit premature. USC's got a hard road to get to this undefeated chance of getting to the playoffs, and losing Travis Dye, not just as a running back, but as a receiver, as a blocker, as pass blocking. The guy has been a huge part of USC success. You're not normally seeing running backs making contested catches on the sideline, for a third and 11, making contested catches, tipped balls. He's coming down with it against defensive backs and linebackers. So he's going to be a huge miss. But we get Eric Gentry back. Here, I think the difference in the game is I do believe SC is going to win because I think our red zone defense is much better. I know we're going to be facing a very angry, very talented UCLA offense. But man, people rip on USC for not having a defense, and that's kind of been the theme in the Pac-12, probably outside of Oregon State, Washington State, and Utah. There's these good offenses with no defense. But when I say no defense, I'm looking at UCLA and the way Washington just torched them. I think that USC has a really good chance to put up some big numbers. And I do think that UCLA is going to struggle to score touchdowns and not field goals. Before Gentry got hurt 3 games ago, USC had an elite defense when it came to red zone defense. I think they were like 6 or 7 in the nation. So I think with him back, that would be huge. Even without him, though, I think we will get some stops and USC will come out with a win.
All right, and Jordan, appreciate that you're back with us this week. So how do you think Clemson's doing?
Yeah, well, happy with the win yesterday. The mantra going into that game, coming off of the disappointment in South Bend, was physicality. After getting physically whipped up front on both sides of the ball in South Bend last week, that was the big preaching point in practice, and you had to, going up against a Louisville team that has been pretty hot these last few weeks, leads the country in a lot of defensive havoc metrics, and they've been playing on really good football as of late. And so going into the game, it was a game I was very skeptical about. I was like, man, I don't know. I think this could be another loss, just with the way the team had played last week, and kind of some of the stuff that Louisville does well, Clemson doesn't do well. But I was pleasantly surprised. I thought the defense kind of got back to kind of more of themselves. They sacked both quarterbacks that played, and obviously Malik at the end of the first half 4 times. They created a ton of tackles for a loss. The linebackers played great, even without Trenton Simpson playing. So that was huge, and it was good to see. It was just a much better defensive effort. Offensively, I thought they, I thought they did fine. DJ didn't turn into his turnover-prone self, so that was good. He didn't have an amazing game, but he did just enough, managed the game well, and the offensive line got a lot of push in the run game. Will Shipley and Phil Moffa.
Shipley hurdled a guy.
Yeah, Will Shipley is a special player. I'm really excited about him. But Phil Moffa was our leading rusher, 10 carries for 110 yards, I think. So that's over 10 yards a carry. He's a special player as well, and he's our second option. So when this Clemson team really gets to committing to the run and not putting the ball and putting the game on DJ, such they're a much better team. But they've clinched the division. They have a date with North Carolina in December. That's going to be an interesting matchup. Drake May is putting up Heisman numbers right now. Clemson's secondary is known to be kind of a weakness of that defense. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup. I'm skeptical about how that game is going to play out, but obviously there's still more games to be played. Miami coming up. They're coming off of a good win, a nice win, but we'll see how this team plays down the stretch. That obviously they don't control their own destiny because of that loss in South Bend, but we'll let the chips fall where they may and keep winning. So that's kind of where I am with this team.
Go Miami! You beat Georgia Tech, which they are doing better this year. So it's not it's not an amazing win, but it's also not the ridiculously easy win it might have been considered last year or the year before. So we'll give him that. Okay, Will. Now we heard your take a little earlier. Those of you who watched the Notre Dame show, but I'd love to just hear a little summary of where you think your team is at.
Well, we didn't make it easy on ourselves against the mids. I mean, they're obviously very disciplined, and they stayed in it to the end, man. I mean, I thought we were gonna get a few more touchdowns and pull it away, but we couldn't score at all in the second half. So, but luckily we held on. They did have a chance at an onside kick, but I'm happy with how Drew Powell played. Drew had one of his better games. Well, I guess he had one good half, but it was a good half. Brayden Lindsay made an insane catch. We blocked another punt. So, yeah, on to the next one. On to BC, the Holy War. Hopefully we can beat the Jesuits. So
look out.
Yeah. I mean, they did beat NC State, so maybe they'll cause us some issues. But I think we should be able to attack that O-line.
Absolutely. Jeffrey, thoughts on Indiana or any other team you want to?
Yeah, I think this is probably Indiana's last decent chance to get a win coming up against Michigan State. I mean, it's possible, but I don't know if they've already thrown in the towel or not. Just on some other teams, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how the top teams shake out and see how it rolls. And it's all going to – I don't like using the phrase, it's all going to work itself out. For the most part, I would say the teams that belong probably are going to get in the playoffs. So it's going to be very interesting to see, and I'm looking forward to it.
There you go. Jackson, you had a good win against Ole Miss there.
And now LSU's in the SEC title game, thanks to the Bama. Oh, wait. I'm not celebrating exactly.
Well, I think it was important. I think it was an important win for you guys, though, just to establish, all right, still Bama.
Yeah. Well, then there's that little cupcake game against Austin Peay, which I don't think I'm going to watch that game, to be quite honest. I mean, I don't like the cupcake games. They suck.
Yeah.
But that Auburn game, the Iron Bowl, absolutely I'm watching.
Yep, it should be an interesting one. Well, that we are on to final thoughts and where can people find you, and we'll reverse it. So we'll start with Jackson. Final thought: where can people find you on the net?
Well, my final thoughts on this week are going to be a little bit boring next week. So boring that game day is going over to Montana.
That's right.
For the Montana State game.
Bozeman.
But if you want,
everybody's booking their travel up there now.
You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. It's at Jats. My YouTube handle is at Jackson Johnson 939.
Awesome. All righty. So let's go to Jeffrey. Final thought, and where can people find you?
Again, like I said, I think it's going to be a great weekend. Probably, maybe not, outside of a few games, not as many sneaky good games like last week. There's still a lot of good games. So I'm looking forward to it. And you can find me at Only Talk Sports on YouTube. And I break down a lot of previous predictions. Get some of them wrong, some of them right, but nobody's perfect. But I try my best. So.
Oh, and I forgot to add in, check out the Young Guns show Thursday nights. For Rivalry Week, I don't know if they'll be on Tuesday or Wednesday because it's, Thanksgiving 2 weeks from now. So we'll see.
And everybody follow Jeffrey. Jeffrey's channel is awesome.
Absolutely.
One of the best channels.
Yep,
Thanks,
I just
Tony.
posted it. So we got the link. Only Talk Sports is in the chat right now. So just click that and give Jeffrey a subscribe.
We are the new Game Day.
There you go. Cool. So Will, final thought, where can people find you?
So final thoughts is excited for the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is going to be great this week, so definitely going to be keeping my eye on that. And yeah, I'm going to try to get out my Clemson vlog sometime this week.
We got to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, all the things I did.
So I can relive that pain too.
One last time, only one last time. And yeah, we're gonna have the show on Thursday. I'm gonna try to simulcast it on my channel, Jeffrey's channel, and Jackson's channel, so we can all get those views. So yeah, hopefully everything goes well. It should be a good show.
I just posted the link to the last Young Guns show as well, in case people missed it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
It was a fun show, and that'd be really cool, Will, because of the fact, obviously, I can't do that, but we do a really good job. Jackson, he adds the flavor to the show, like Joey Foster said. He's like Lee Corso. He said I was Desmond Howard, and I don't know how I'm Desmond Howard. I did not pick Texas A&M and Utah to make the playoffs, so I don't know how I'm Desmond Howard. But he had Will and D. Yeah,
at least you didn't predict
Davis.
Hey, at least you didn't have your national champ go from sixth in the nation to 3-7. That's Desmond Howard right there. And he didn't even have his own team, Michigan, win it all against Texas A&M. And he had Pittsburgh and Baylor in that final four.
Oh, yeah. You never forget.
I posted that on Twitter just a few hours ago.
All right, let's go to Jordan. Final thought. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Jobo0209. It's right next to my name. Tweet mostly about Clemson, but I tweet about other stuff too. Check me out on the Clemson Voice of College Football channel. Me and Tiger Paul Craven, DeAndre, Smitty. We talk Clemson football every week. 2 shows a week. We do a pregame and postgame show. So make sure to check that out if you want to get our thoughts on everything Clemson football. And once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Having a lot of fun doing this show.
You just got followed, Jordan.
Appreciate it, man. Let me give you a follow back.
All right, man.
There we go. Everybody following each other. That's how we do it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Tim. Final thought. Where can people find you?
Just final thought. I'm kind of with Will on this. It's been really fun to see the Pac-12 get back to normal and winning and being in the top 10. It's going to be an interesting finish to the season. I like where USC stands, but we've watched all the Pac-12 teams cannibalize each other up the top. So I know that USC is not invulnerable to that. So I hope they finish strong. Yeah, we have the Pac-12 show coming up on Wednesday at 7:30. We'd love to have everybody here to join us. And then, as always, we have the USC wrap-up show after the post-game show after the USC game. It should be a fun one after the UCLA game. Either way, thank you guys for all tuning in. And John and Ben, thanks for having me.
Always great to have you here, Tim. All right, Tony, you're up. Final thought. Where can people find you?
Yeah, my final thought is one of the things I think is really exciting right now is that a lot of great schools with great fan bases and terrible teams are turning it around. I mean, we think about UConn, we think about Arizona, we think about a lot of the Oregon State. These are like great schools with great fan bases who deserve better for who?
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt. There we go. Exactly. I mean, these are great schools. Vanderbilt making Kentucky the worst team in the conference. Just kidding, DeReal. They're not the worst.
But are we kidding though?
I'm kidding, DeReal. I'm kidding. I think Will Levis is decent, but I mean, what's really exciting is we're watching a lot of these teams get back to where they need to be, and that's awesome. And it's exciting, and I think everybody should celebrate that. Like, look around that and think about that. Like, watch those games every once in a while rather than just watch something else boring. And I think it's really exciting. So we have the Pac-12 show this week. Wednesday, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk SC UCLA. We're going to talk Oregon, Utah. We're going to talk Stanford. We're going to talk Wazoo. I mean, there's stuff going on in the desert. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'd love to have you guys. You can reach out if you want to chat at all. Get me on Twitter. I think I'll put a link in the description or put the link in the chat. And love talking to you guys. Love engaging with you. And we love having you all with our Pac-12 show.
There we go. Just put your Twitter in there for you there.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks a lot, Tony. So Ben.
One more thing to add. Next Saturday is the 40th anniversary of the play from Cal Stanford.
Oh, Jackson, good point. And there's actually an ESPN movie. Yeah, the ESPN movie, I think, just came out today. The band is called "The Band Is on the Field."
Ooh, it's on ESPN Plus, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I think it's on. Yeah, it's probably on. I'm sure it's on demand. It's on ESPN Plus. Probably around.
I'm gonna find it.
It's really good. It looks really good. That was a wild game. And guys, remember, Stanford and Cal used to be like good and powerful.
Yeah,
like that game used to matter.
I think John Elway was playing for bowl eligibility in that game, but unfortunately couldn't get it. Little fat nobody. That was like
because they lost.
At my time, John Elway never played in a bowl game.
Yeah, well, it was a lot harder to make bowl games then too. There was way less.
Yeah, well, and the Pac-12 had a rule which back in its various names, but had the rule only bowl you could go to was the Rose Bowl.
That's right.
And the funny thing
and
is,
for 70 years or something, they made one exception.
And the funny thing is, Cal and Stanford next Saturday are playing on the 40th anniversary of the play.
Are they? Nice.
Not it. Most certainly is. Wonder if John Elway is going to be there, or is it like a PTSD moment for him?
Who knows? He'll probably be there.
Hey,
but we've had. Yeah, go for it, Ben.
No, what's up, John?
I was just saying we've had a couple of requests for the after show. So the after show link will be posted in Discord. It's going to be for Patreon people. So if you have a Patreon, then you can definitely join us for the after show. And Ben, you're up. I think you're going to be up for final thought.
Yeah, and what Van was saying how Cal and Stanford are playing, we might see a repeat of the band on the field just to help one or the other team out. You never know. But yeah, once again, everyone here, appreciate everyone coming on. John doing his great layouts, his great narration, and keeping control of things because it can get out of hand really, really fast, especially when we're in the comments. But yeah, I'm Ben of Exploring with Ben and Sam. As always, you can find me generally on the Oregon postgame show on Mark Rogers's channel, which I'll drop the link. I'm going to be gone this next week for 2 shows and for 2 After Dark shows. So someone here will get the reins handed off to them, and they're going to have to deal with the pressure of, setting up StreamYard. Wow. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, I'm on Instagram, Instagram and Twitter, but you mostly will find me on YouTube here. I'm dropping that link too. So please check us out. We're not sports related, but it means a lot. But John, the man of the hour as usual, you take the final reins.
Appreciate it. Well, as always, appreciate everybody on the panel taking their time to be on here. And for everybody in chat who, whether you did a super chat, you threw us a like, maybe you subscribed to the Voice of College Football, whatever you're able to do, we appreciate it and appreciate you guys engaging with us.
The show already.
Yeah.
I hate that part of the show.
Yeah, it's that time. So you can find me in a couple of places. You can find me on Twitter at John Diadamo. You can find me on D4 Sports when we do our Michigan shows. And just randomly in different channels. Gold and Blue Dude occasionally been doing those shows. So check me out whenever I'm around. And otherwise the weekly After Dark. So thanks again, everybody, for coming on, and we'll see you next week.
Adios, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.